Hey, welcome to the channel Forever Orchids. My name is Tracy. I'm so glad that you stopped by today. Today, I've got a couple issues on a couple of plants. They're not doing too good. I went to water them and literally they just fell out of the pot. So they're losing their root system. So that's not good. So we're going to have to try to save these plants. This one is, I actually have 3 of these plants. This is RLC Blanche Osaka Yuki. It has an FCC from the American Orchid Society. I really would like to save this plant. I've done videos before where I got this plant last year, and one of the pots that I got actually had 2 plants in it. One of the plants that was sent had some heat damage to it or cold damage. I forgot which one it was. So they sent me another plant. That was the one that ended up with 2 plants in the same pot. So this has been repotted and it's just not doing that great. So what we're going to do is the bark that it was in the plastic pot, there's really nothing wrong with this bark mix, but I am going to go ahead and dump it out. It had some coarse, it had some charcoal, some coarse perlite in there, as well as some just like medium bark. So I'm going to end up just repotting it in the same mixture, just a fresh mixture. Okay, the second plant here, this is one that is a rescue plant. I did about 3 videos last year when I was rescuing a lot of orchids from one of the places that I volunteer at. They were renovating, well, they're currently renovating their antique greenhouse, and therefore they needed to pare their collection down. And this is one of the plants that I got. Same thing, picked it up to water it. Whole thing just came out of the pot. So what that means also is it did not establish in the plastic pot. And at least this one did. I'm sorry. Unrehearsed. I'm just talking off the cuff here as we're going to get ready to repot these plants. This one I did not repot. I do not remember repotting this. This would have been in the pot that it came in. I don't know when that would have been repotted. And that's another reason to go on and get rid of the mix that was in the pot. Now, this particular one was planted in, looks like just straight bark, but they had also put in clay shards from broken pots down in the bottom of it, and that's perfectly fine. If you are, I actually think it's not a bad idea, anytime you can do this, is if you are growing, let's say, in plastic pots, and they're lightweight. Bark, typically when it's dry, is lightweight. So to weight your pots down, it is a good idea if you've got some broken clay pots to put down in the bottom. Other things that you could put down in the bottom is rocks. You could put lava rock is a good one. Orchids like lava rocks to grow in and amongst. So that's what we've got going on right here. I'm going to repot these really quick. And I typically tell you guys that I always repot in clay pots. And I've got one right here that we can use for this one. And you can take out this rhizome clip. This one is designed for plastic pots. It is much thinner, or not thinner, but the space in between here is a lot thinner. And so this is used in your clay pot, in your plastic pots. Clay pots, there's a totally different rhizome clip, and I'll get one of those and use on this plant here. This is a, and I'm not sure if it's a BLC anymore. It may be an RLC, but this is, no, actually, you know what? I think this is a straight Cattleya now, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll put the name down at the bottom. This is Melody Fair. Cultivar Carol. This is an older hybrid, so I definitely want to try to, it's what you would call kind of one of those heirloom plants, and I think it will be fine down in this pot here. This was the last growth on it, so I'm expecting growth coming from this direction. So I want to try to get that and have as much space in here as possible. And I don't see any green root tips growing right now. I did a couple days ago soak this whole thing in sea kelp extract to kick in those hormones and see if we can't get some things growing here. And I may need to do that before we put it back in the pot here. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm thinking about doing that is if this is the new point of growth and I've got all of this here and this is pretty dried and not very flexible, so I can't take the plant and shift it to one side to give more space in the pot here for the new growth. So I might have to soak this, get this a little bit more pliable, and get some of these roots down in there. So I'm going to set that one aside, and that's the pot it can go in. And this one here, there's not a whole lot of root system that it had to begin with. This is new growth that's been trying to grow. It's much smaller than this growth here, so I should have realized that the plant was stressed when I saw that to begin with. I'm just going to take my fingers and kind of run it through here and try to get some of this extra bark out. But I'm really not sure that this one needs to go in such a big pot. There's just not a lot of root system on it to do that. I don't know if it would warrant a big pot like this. So I need to see if I've got a smaller pot. I know it was planted in, this is a 6-inch clay pot, and this is a 5-inch plastic. I might have to put this one back in plastic if I can't find clay pots. 4-inch, 6-inch, I think is all I've got here at the house. So I think I'm going to put this one back in plastic. Put some of these shards that were left over down in the bottom from the other plant there. That's perfectly fine to do that. And then I'll put this back portion here up against this back wall here. Hopefully you guys can see that up against the back wall and give plenty of space right here for new growth. Now what I have done is I've mixed up, let me move my tags out of the way here. Don't want to get them mixed up here. Lay Melody Fair over here near that plant. What I've done is I have mixed up some Orchids Power Plus Premium Orchid Bark. I've put that in here. Probably maybe, if I had to guess, we are 3 parts to 4 parts. I've put in some charcoal pieces in here. And I've got some perlite that's also down in here. I'm also going to put in sphagnum moss. And I've got that soaking in some water right here. There is some, most definitely, some safety issues that you need to know about when you're repotting your orchids. One is sphagnum moss. You do not want to breathe the dust coming from dry sphagnum moss. So it is best to always wet your sphagnum moss when you are getting ready to repot. Take it outside if you need to. If it's a warm day, open up the bag and try not to breathe in the particles from this. The other thing is perlite. You definitely do not want to breathe in the dust from perlite. Make sure you're outside when you're opening that bag and putting it into your mix. What I've done is once I put it in, and I took this outside, I put some perlite in here. There again, it's like 3 to 4 parts bark, 1 part charcoal, 1 part perlite. I took it outside with the perlite, put it in my bucket here, let some of the dust dissipate, brought it inside, and then I misted with a spray bottle this here so it would get a lot of that dust down so that while I'm inside potting, I don't have to worry about that dust. Okay, so let's go and plant this Blanche Akasuka, Asaka Yuki. And You can, some people layer. I don't always layer. I just kind of do it stuff on a whim. Basically, it's to me, repotting an orchid does not have to be complicated. And I probably, if we're going to layer, I would want the sphagnum moss closer up here to the top of the roots. And the reason for that is the plant was losing its root system. So that's why the pseudobulbs here are shriveled. Humidity, I'm having trouble with humidity in the house. So that is definitely another reason why the bulbs are shriveling. But if I'll put the sphagnum moss closer to the top of this root system, then as new roots start to grow, they will seek out the moisture, because sphagnum moss retains moisture. Your bark does not. Lava rock does not retain moisture, at least not like a sphagnum moss does. If it retains any type of moisture, it's for a very short period of time. So if I want those roots to seek out moisture and go down into the media, I'd rather have those type of roots than aerial roots. That's just me personally. I have a tendency to, if I let aerial roots grow all around the pot, I'm going to end up breaking those roots, picking up the pot. So I personally don't care for aerial roots on my pots. So I want those roots to go down in the media. So I'm going to start with some bark mixture here. And I like to just get in there. It doesn't bother me any. Some people would prefer to wear gloves. That's fine if you want to do that. And I need to put some more. We'll put a little bit of sphagnum moss there. This is the long fiber New Zealand sphagnum moss. This is really great stuff that you need to use with your orchids. Try to buy the best sphagnum moss and the best bark that you can. That way it won't break down so easily, so quickly. Because once you put your plant in here, orchids like to feel secure. Think about it. They grow, the majority of them are epiphytic. That means they grow on the sides of trees in nature. They don't jump from tree to tree when the conditions change. They like where they're planted. They like to stay put, and they like to definitely feel secure. Now, that's one of the reasons why you use a rhizome clip, is when you're repotting, so that the plant will feel secure until it can start growing new roots and start going down into the media. Okay, so we've got some bark now here that is right at, I would say, at the bottom of this root mass here. And so now I'm going to layer in some of this sphagnum moss kind of under the plant and just get a little bit in here, kind of around those roots. Add some more bark mixture. And you can tap it some and let the bark kind of go down in between the roots here. And I hope you guys can see this since I'm not using the overhead camera right now. Hopefully you can see me putting all this in. And I can use my finger. There's no root tips right now that I have to worry about getting broken off. So I can be a little bit more rough with the plant here and getting bark in among those roots and under the rhizome. Okay, now I've got the bark here up to this level here. So that's about an inch from the top. I've also got the plant sitting a little bit above the bark, because I don't want the rhizome to start to rot with it being planted too deep in your pot. All right, so just get a little bit more bark in here, and then I'm going to top dress it with the sphagnum moss. Try to push the plant back as far as I can to this edge so that this new growth can can hopefully will get some new growth and come on out. And we're just going to put a little bit of sphagnum moss on the top here. Just give it a little top dressing on some of the existing roots. And then we'll go get a rhizome clip, and I'll show you. Well, actually, we've got the one here for the plastic pot, so I can go and use it again. Remember where I put it here. Okay. So I think I'm going to try to go across. I'm going to try to go right in between here. That gives me 3 pseudobulbs on one side, 2 on the other of the rhizome clip. And see if I can't get it down in there. Hopefully. I'm hoping. They're a little tricky to get down, pushed far enough. And then, like this pot here that the other plant was in, the Melody Fair, it actually had like a little hole that this part of the clip went to. I'm trying to get the rim of the plastic pot here in this space here. And it's proven to be a little difficult. Okay, we got it. Got it. So now we've got the plant here. And I'm going to redo this rhizome clip, because when I did that, I no longer had my new growth kind of more in the middle here and have at least a year or two's growth available. So I definitely don't like the placement of the rhizome clip there. Let's see if I can figure out another spot for it. Oops. They're tricky little things here. Yeah, that's just the way it's working here. Yeah, I don't really see another spot to put it down in. Maybe this will work here. Once I push that rhizome clip down in here, it's not really what I would prefer, because now I've got the new growth too close to the plastic pot here. But given the fact that the orchid itself is not doing that great, there possibly is a new eye right here that is swelling and growing. That would be wonderful if this lead right here starts pushing out a new growth right there. That would be great. That'd be great to see. So we'll keep an eye on this one, and I will definitely update you guys as this one progresses over the next couple of weeks here. And let me put my tag back in here. And we'll set this one aside. And then let's, and the rhizome clip, see how now when I shake the pseudobulbs and the plant itself is not rocking, it's more secure. So if you think about a natural wind might be blowing the pseudobulbs, the plant itself, the rhizome, is tight. It's in place. The plant's going to feel more secure. Okay, now we're going to plant here Melody Fair. And this one we're going to plant in this clay pot here. And the clay pot itself has more weight than a plastic pot. I don't necessarily have to weight it down with anything. If I'm going to put this plant outside during the summer, then I might want to consider putting something down here in the bottom just to help weight down the pot some more. I don't have anything with me at the moment that I see, so I'm probably going to put this plant, if I get some new root tips on it, I probably will put it outside in the summer to see what happens. And I will need to weight the pot down, because if I don't, the wind could easily knock it over. So I will be right back, and let me grab some, nope, you know what? I don't have to go anywhere. I remembered there are some clay shards from a little pot that broke that I could put down here in the bottom. You want to remember, though, that you're putting clay shards down in the bottom, because I tell you what, I have been volunteering at some places, and I go to repot these plants, and lo and behold, I'm digging my hands down in there and getting around the roots and everything, and there's clay shards in there. So try to remember that you're putting clay shards down in the bottom of your pot. All right, a little bit of noise here. We'll see if I can get this crack that's in this one to break a little bit more here. Yeah, we'll put this one. This is a good size one to put down over the hole here. And this will weight it down just a little bit. Take that piece out. Give it a little bit more weight there. Alrighty. So, same thing. We're going to put our bark mixture down in here now. And we do have some dust coming up. Let some of that dissipate. And let's see here on the plant. I think if we get it, I think we're going to let that dust dissipate. Okay. Point of new growth. Like I said, I've already soaked this in some Kelpak, and I'm not seeing anything at the moment as far as new growth, new root tips yet. It's only been, I'm not even sure it's been a week since I soaked it in Kelpak. Same thing here. We're going to get a little bit of bark, sphagnum moss here. So as the roots go down, they'll touch the sphagnum moss, get a little bit of moisture here. More bark. Get it packed under there too. And notice I'm still leaving the rhizome above the pot and not trying to bury it, so that I don't have to worry about any rot or fungus and too much moisture being around the base of the plant. Okay, same thing here. Got about a ½ inch left here, and we're going to put some sphagnum moss now around the top, and hope for some new root tips to start growing. And it would be great if I start seeing new growth besides new root tips. I'd love to see some new pseudobulbs starting to grow out on this rescued orchid here, because this is an absolutely stunning, stunning flower. It is a semi-alba. It's a white Cattleya orchid with a gorgeous red, full lip to it. Okay, and our tags now for Miss Melody Fair. And there we go. So, I don't know if I need a rhizome clip for this one. I think she feels pretty secure. She's rocking a little bit. I may still need to go get one and put down on that. So let me go get one of those rhizome clips and I'll show you the difference of what that one looks like for the plastic pot. I have down in the description, I have a lot of the supplies that I use, and I do have a link for the rhizome clips that you can buy, and I'll be right back. Okay, this is your rhizome clip for a clay pot. Notice how you've got more space here in the hook part so that it can go on a thicker pot. So I'm gonna find a space, a place down in here. This is a 6-inch rhizome clip. Let me see if I can't find a good spot to press down here. It's going to hold it in place. I'm looking in between the rhizomes here and trying to find a really good spot to press it down. And these things are a little tricky always to get them started. All right, so what I've done is you want your rhizome clip to at least go below this little rim part here. And then because I had my plant up higher than the rim, I needed to bend the edge of the other end of that rhizome clip to get it tight and just bend it down. And I think that's good enough. I think that will work just fine. So now when I move the plant, you see how at the base here where the rhizome is, there's none of that rocking back and forth that we saw prior to me putting the rhizome clip in. So we're just going to hope for the best on this little rescued beauty here, and I'll keep you guys updated on all of my orchids. We've got some exciting things coming up on the channel. Shh, we won't tell my husband, but I have a haul coming. I'm so excited. Sunset Valley Orchids released their Cattleya hybrid list for 2024. Yay! I'm so excited about that. So I got a couple plants from him and they'll be coming in next week. So we'll definitely do a haul on that. So I hope you were able to see all of this and learn a couple of things on repotting some of your orchids. A lot of what I talked about will apply for good condition orchids that are just needing repotting, that are, doing very well. I definitely have a lot of orchids that will need repotting. I like to typically wait until it's a little bit warmer weather. Some of us, not some of us, but two of the places that I volunteer at, I just yesterday repotted an orchid because we started seeing new root tips. And this is late February right now. And I had no intentions of repotting until at least mid-March. But the greenhouse, they're finally kind of dialing in their temperatures and getting them a little bit better than when they first put the orchids in this hoop house greenhouse temporary spot for them, that the temperatures were fluctuating so much. So they finally getting a little bit better regulated. And so I'm now starting to see some new growth on a lot of the plants. So we're going to start repotting because we've got a lot that needs to be repotted there. I know the other place that I volunteer at, same thing. We'll start in the next few weeks repotting. So there's going to be hundreds of orchids that will need repotting and possibly mounted. So I've got all that going on, plus all of the ones that are going to need to be repotted in my grow space, and I'll definitely take you along for all of that. In fact, we'll probably have to do this at another time, but this little guy desperately needs repotting. We have new growth coming out on this one, lots of root tips, hopefully, that you can see there. And this one was so dry that the plug just came out of the plastic pot that it was in, and I just need to find a pot to repot it in. And I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to put it in. The thing about putting your orchids in really big pots that are too big for the plant is orchids, a lot of them, they kind of like to be confined and feel, like I said, they like to feel secure. And a lot of them like to be a little bit more root bound. So you want to check your orchid pot size. And this one here, I'm just not so sure needs to go in this big 4-inch pot. The only other pot that I've got close by me is, it was in I think a 2-inch plastic pot. I'll need to soak this and see if I can get this to wrap a little bit more, but I do have this, I think this is a little 3-inch pot that I might be able to get this one potted in, and I will put this one in sphagnum moss. I like plastic pots better for my Phalaenopsis, so I've got to see if I've got a little 3-inch or something that I can put this one in, and we can do that one a little bit different day with some of my other orchids when we need to repot them. So until next time, happy orchid growing, guys. Bye.